Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show today. We are going to have a great show for you today. It seems to me like maybe we sort of underestimated Brother Biden for a while as far as his campaigning proclivities. Well, it turns out that the guy has come out swinging, and I am actually liking what I'm seeing in the way that he is fighting the battle. He seems to be fighting very well. Well, you know what is interesting? If you're seeing a desync, that is interesting because today is the first day that we are using the new version of the package. They just released the package today, and we installed it today. And I am seeing perfect syncing, and you are saying audio desync issue. Wow, that is very interesting. These guys need to get their act together. Please, folks, check it on both YouTube. Check it as well on Facebook. Let us know if you are seeing that desync issue so that we can actually find a conclusive way to report it to this company. I have no clue what is happening with these guys. Anyhow, let's go ahead and get started. What is the show going to be about today? The show is titled, let me go ahead and put that on the screen. The show is titled, Biden Out Swinging Against Trump, Progressives Rising, Dem Crime-Infested Cities Lie. Wow, it's not synced properly on Twitch either. Interesting. And this is brand new software installed today. Well, we are going to have to see. It's like watching an old kung fu flick. Well, I'm going to try to keep the mic at my face to see if it'll eventually demux itself. Anyhow, let's go ahead and do this. I am going to go ahead and the title of the show is Biden Out Swinging Against Trump, Progressives Rising, Dem Crime-Infested Cities Lie Dispelled. No more playing defense. Joe Biden is swinging at Trump where he failed everywhere. Democratic crime cities lies. We have a good article that talks about the dispelling. Okay, anyway, so the 4 videos. Donald Trump has been trying to make the case that democratic cities are lawless and the crime rates are increasing there. We dispel that all together. Secondly, progressives win big in a very important Senate race in Massachusetts. Joe Biden comes out swinging as he points out that Donald Trump has failed as president. Joe Biden knocks president on school opening. So let's go ahead and start with the first. Let's see which one we'll start with. Let's go ahead and start with Biden, and how he came out today on that particular school issue. Let's go ahead and do that.
President Trump may not think this is a national emergency, but I think going back to school for millions of children and the impacts on their families and the community is a national emergency. I believe that's what it is. Protecting our students, our educators, our communities, getting our schools open safely and effectively. This is a national emergency. But President Trump still doesn't have any real plan for how to open our schools safely. No real plan for how to help parents feel secure for their children. He's offering nothing but failure and delusions. From the start to finish, the American families and our children are paying the price for his failures. Failure to take this virus seriously early on in January and February, and it's spread around the globe. Failure to take steps we needed back in March and April to get this pandemic under control, to institute widespread testing and tracing, to control the spread. Failure to provide clear national science-based guidelines to state and local authorities. And failure to model even basic responsibility like socially distancing and wearing a mask. And failure to make sure educators and administrators have the equipment, the resources, and the training they need to open safely under the circumstances we find now. Donald Trump and Secretary DeVos haven't stepped up. And we're all seeing the results. Millions of students are now starting the new school year in the same way they finished the last one, at home. Parents are doing their best, but more and more we're finding themselves at wit's end, struggling to balance work and childcare and educational duties, or worrying about their lost paycheck and how they'll make ends meet while trying to keep their kids on track with remote learning. You know, we're all concerned about making sure COVID-19 doesn't further exacerbate the disparities that already have existed in our educational system for so many poor children and in so many communities of color. It's unacceptable. And it can't go on like this. We all want our schools to reopen safely, with a plan that prioritizes the health of our students and our educators and staff alike. I laid out my plans back in June and July, a roadmap for how to reopen safely and effectively. You can read them by going to joebiden.com. We need straightforward, common sense solutions, but Trump refuses to act, starving schools of the needed funding they need now. I'd make sure that PPE and sanitation supplies for school qualify as emergency protective measures, which is a phrase they use, to fully be eligible for federal assistance. On top of that, I'd be working with the leaders of Congress now, today, to pass emergency packages for schools so they have the resources they need in order to be able to open safely. Democratic leaders are ready to get this done. They've already proposed such legislation. Mr. President, where are you? Where are you? Why aren't you working on this? We need emergency support funding for our schools, and we need it now. Mr. President, that's your job. That's your job. That's what you should be focused on now. Getting our kids back to school safely, keeping schools safely able to remain open once they open. Not whipping up fear and division, not inciting violence in our streets. Get off Twitter and start talking to the congressional leaders in both parties. Invite them to the Oval Office. You always talk about your ability to negotiate. Negotiate a deal for somebody other than yourself.
A deal for somebody other than yourself. I love the way he came out there, and I love the way he ended that sub-segment. Think about it. Now he is putting the president on the defensive. You know, yesterday I was going to call up one of the guys at the here in Texas that is actually on the Biden campaign team, right? That they run the messaging and so forth for the campaign team. And you know, I was driving yesterday by the way, folks, for all of you who ordered the It's Worth It book directly from Politics Done Right, meaning our store. Remember, we just got a batch of books in. I just got those mailed out yesterday because there was a backlog at the at Amazon. The people who ordered directly and plus the orders that we're doing, so those are out. So those books were shipped yesterday. So you're in the mail service right now. Anyhow, you know, while I was out there, I was talking to one of these guys, and then I said, "Hey, we need to stop the messaging hoopla that's going on right now. The problem is that we have to be not on the defensive, but on the offensive." How do you ever find that the person who has screwed up the economy, the person who has screwed up the schools, the person who has screwed up the pandemic is somehow defending himself with some kind of a crazy thing like law and order? You don't fall for that crap. Don't allow him to dictate the narrative. Don't allow him to set the message. You have to be in front. So when I saw that Biden was giving a press conference today, it was like, I sure hope he doesn't come out there and start playing the game on Donald Trump's turf. In other words, you have to be the one defining the turf, because Donald Trump has destroyed the turf and you are going to rebuild it. And therefore, don't answer questions to Donald Trump. Let Donald Trump answer your questions. And you know, so when I saw the way he came out, I'm like, great. But there's another thing that Biden did that really was very impressive. You know, one of the reporters came out and said, hey, Biden, you brought in more money than anybody has ever done in that period. over $360 million. And I don't know if this was a Fox News reporter or not. I don't know who the guy is. But the way his tonality seemed to be that of a Fox News person saying, so what are you going to do with all that money? And Biden gave the perfect response to what are you going to do with that money. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
One more quick campaign question. You raised $364.5 million, your campaign in the DNC last month. Record for a monthly haul, apparently. How are you going to spend it?
Oh, you want to go to dinner? No. I tell you what, look, what I'm having to spend a lot of it on is to counter the lies that are being told by Trump's campaign and Swift voters out there, the new PAC. But what I'm trying to do is spend most of that. And by the way, I think the average contribution was like $40. We have over 1,600,000 people who contribute in the middle of this economic crisis, somewhere between $5, $10, $15. I'd say that shows some genuine enthusiasm about wanting to make sure that we have a chance of becoming president of the United States. And so what I will spend most of it doing is trying to explain to the American people how I want to unite the country, what I want to do to make the country better, why I'm so confident we can do it, why I'm so confident that we can bring the country together and be in a better position than before this crisis occurred. Because there's been so many fissures exposed as a consequence of what's happened that people are now realizing, my Lord, I didn't know that people in that circumstance didn't have that kind of help. I didn't know whatever. And so I think we have an enormous opportunity to bring the country together and once again lead the world. And you've heard me say it 100 times, not just by the example of our power, but the power of our example.
I'm Egberto Willies, host of Politics Done Right. Absolutely. So you see what he did there? You see what he did there? Went ahead and said, yeah, I got a lot of money, but I'm going to need a lot of money to overcome all those darn lies that Donald Trump is telling me. And I tell you, people, there are two battles that are out there. You know, a lot of people just watch the news. They watch what's occurring on the news. They watch what's occurring on their immediate website, the CNN website, the MSNBC website, the Politico website, and all these other guys. But there's a bigger battle going on underneath. That is for if you look at the bell curve, right? Though the people that make up probably 70% of the bell curve, they look at those standard forms of information, and they probably make a lot of their decisions based on that. But I have people sending me videos right now. I have people sending me videos of thuggish looking black guys out there knocking Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter doesn't care about anybody. Black Lives Matter is doing this. Black Lives Matter is not protecting the city. You have sophisticated looking black guys going out there and saying Black Lives Matter. So they have this underlying campaign. Then they have this other one that another friend sent me with all these videos stating, oh, you know that that you're going to see a rise in the pandemic as soon as winter comes, but it's something that's created by wearing the masks, because the mask has some chemicals in the mask that when you breathe in, it gives you a higher risk of getting the coronavirus from wearing the mask. And you know, the vaccine that they're going to force you to take a vaccine. I am watching all these things that were put out by Donald Trump's mafia, if you will. And saying these guys live in an alternate state of reality. So they are trying to hit two people at the same time. They're hitting the right with all these conspiracy theories, and they're hitting the left with those people that you really think are on your side. They really aren't. And the goal isn't for them to get them to vote for Donald Trump. That's not the goal at all. Because most of these people that they're talking to, the ones on the left, they are not going to vote for Donald Trump. They're going to just get out of the game altogether. And that is what Donald Trump needs. You see, because once Biden crosses that 50% threshold, which in a lot of polls he's at the 50% threshold, once he passes that, the only way for Donald Trump to win in each state where he's over 50%, Biden is over 50%, is to depress Biden. And the only way to depress Biden is not for him to win a vote away from Biden, but for him to win a non-vote. And that's why I'm trying to tell everybody out there. First of all, I get these. I could show you 5 texts that I got in the last couple of hours of Black Lives Matter attack, on vaccine attack, and on coronavirus and mask attacks. And what is that telling me? If I'm getting those reports right now, you can imagine what other people are getting in their mailboxes. You can imagine what other people are getting on their feed, etc. So there's a two-way battle here. The battle that we all see wide in the open, and the battle that is happening behind the back. People always say, how are those people so stupid? That's what they will say about the right wings. I would not say that. I'm just saying because of how they get their information, these things look very plausible. All these videos that I'm getting, if you weren't, most of you that are here, weren't sophisticated politicos, you would fall for a lot of this. And unless you have that counter argument over and over and over and over again, what happens is that cauterizes into those people's minds. So before I go any further, I'm going to ask all of you that are listening to me right now to share this stuff. Share these programs so that they have other... There are 2 things that happen, right? Search engines pick up everything. And if you want to know why I try to put out a ton of content, I put out a whole lot of content every day. It's hard work. And sometimes it's repeated content in a different form. Sometimes it's just saying things different ways in different forms so that search engines pick them up in different forms. We need a lot of people doing this. And if you're not a writer or if you're not doing those things, you can do it as well by simply sharing our stuff. Share my stuff. Share other people's stuff that are telling the truth and putting this out there. The idea is to get enough volume out there to go against... I don't want to just come on and say, to go against the Russians or to go against this but really to go against all those bots that are doing these bad things to really mislead people. All of us have to be engaged in this work. One person can't do it. Like I said, I put up anywhere from 3 to 10 pieces of content every single day. And the reason why is, again, to populate the ethos. After a while, you put stuff out, you get a diminishing returns on the stuff that you put out. So you have to keep putting those things out. You have to keep sharing those things so that they get a life and they can continue informing. So again, if you're just listening to us right now, whether you're on podcasts, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Instagram, wherever you are listening to us, IGTV, wherever you're listening to us, please remember to go out there and share our stuff. You are saving America when you share stuff like this and by other things as well. Okay? That is very important. Now, recently, the news media always need to have a conflict, right? They need to come out and say, something is happening, something bad is happening, and or it's a rat race now, and somehow Trump is catching on or whatever, and people start to get scared. And it happened today, but what happened today was funny. And I got this, while I had that other video playing, I started to work. I pulled down this that was on TV, and I was capturing the screen, and I said, I can process this in that 5 minutes that the other video is playing for my folks right now. I can do that. So what I did is I went ahead and processed that video so it doesn't have all my flash in the beginning and the end. I processed that video so that you guys can actually see something that I really needed to see, how the news media handled the polling, right? And this one caught Steve Kornacki because the idea was to show, there's a slow decline in Biden's support, right? Because all these new polls starting to come out. Well, it turns out that the first few polls that came out did show a decrease, but others that came out showed an increase. It is amazing. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
And new polls show the race tightening in a battleground state. NBC Steve Kornacki is at the big board with more. Steve, what do you see?
Well, we're seeing sort of a conflicting picture, but remember, we always talk about you can lose the popular vote, but win the Electoral College, but lose the popular vote. So let me show you what I mean by that. First of all, this is the national picture. These are the national polls that are out there. Exactly a month ago today, this is where the race stood nationally. On average, the average of polls, Joe Biden was leading by 7.4 points in the national average of polls. We've had a lot of things happen since then, Democratic and Republican conventions, a lot of events in between, and we have just gotten a flood of polls really in the last couple of days. Where does the average nationally stand? Actually, a fraction of a point higher than it did a month ago for Joe Biden. So it's basically flat, though. That's the story here for a month. 7.5 points. That continues to be Joe Biden's lead in the national polling. Now, let's take a look at the state level. Let's take a look at one of the most important states, Pennsylvania. Remember 2016 here. Oh, that's one of the polls that goes into that. That was not supposed to be there. But anyway, let's go to Pennsylvania here. A fraction of a point here in 2016. Trump beat Clinton by a fraction of a point. What's the new poll that we're seeing today in Pennsylvania? 4 points. So more competitive than we're seeing nationally, but Biden does lead by 4 points. And I think what this gets to is that really important point here. You know, Trump lost the popular vote by 2 points in 2016, was able to win the electoral the Electoral College. There's scenarios here where he could lose the popular vote by even more in 2020 and still put it together in the Electoral College. So again, if he's trailing by 7.5 points nationally, in only 4 points in Pennsylvania, those numbers are actually consistent with each other because the states that he won that were so critical to him in 2016 were more Republican than the national average. So at 7.5 points, it's hard to see Trump putting it together in the Electoral College, but that number, that national average, doesn't have to fall that far for a state like Pennsylvania to get into Trump's column. 7.5, if that fell 3 points, you know, if 3-point improvement for Trump, if Pennsylvania improved for him by 3 points, he'd be breathing right down Joe Biden's neck in Pennsylvania and probably a couple of other states as well. So the national polls are important, but the state polls are what decide it. And with the number I've been using, the line I've kind of been using nationally is if that average gets within 5 points nationally, then this really starts to come into play, the possibility on the Electoral College front.
Interesting to see how all these battleground states are starting to shape up, especially the ones that kind of gave him just enough of an edge to pull off the win in 2016. And new polls show the race tightening.
Okay, folks, the reason I wanted you to see that, right, is everything that they are showing you is saying not only a strong Biden lead, a consistent, a lasting lead, right? It is also showing that the lead is actually getting bigger by a little bit, of course, from 7.4 to 7.5, but that's huge. But the idea on this month was twofold. The idea was we're getting closer to the election. The polls should tighten. And after Donald Trump goes to his convention and give his spectacular show of incumbency and power, suddenly it's going to make sense. So at the time that he is talking, Joe Biden was at 7.4 when all the polls were in. Then another poll came in. It took him to 7.5. But the narrative that they wanted to show for that particular article on that show was, oh, Biden in decline. Now, moving between a half a point up or down is statistically no movement. Moving 2 or so points, statistically no movement. But the most important part, in the battleground states, his lead has been consistent. Now, again, this is not a static thing where you have to stay there, right? And this is what I try to tell folk all the time. You have to go out there and work it. You have to go ahead and talk. If you take a look at what I think it's Paul Fleming just said. Paul Fleming said, my oldest son, who doesn't watch local or national news, told me that on Twitter he saw a post saying Biden was a rapist and he was voting for Trump. I lost it. But don't lose it, Paul. Let me tell you what to tell your son. And somebody just brought it out here. Somebody here said, remember to tell your son that Donald Trump had 43 rape accusations on him. Biden has what? 1 or 2 rape accusations, right? I am not justifying any kind of rape accusations or anything by any token. So everybody that's listening to me, man, woman, everybody, I am not attempting to do any kind of justification. But I'm saying if you are going to choose Donald Trump over Biden because you happen to believe that it's somehow going to be that Biden had a rape accusation, so you're going to vote for Trump. Well, what happens when you find out that Trump has 43 rape accusations? You're going to then go back to Biden. And here's the deal. Mr. Fleming, and you have to be careful with this. A lot of times, and I want to be very sensitive in I say this, right? What Republicans have successfully equated the Democratic Party to is, in as much as most people get the best benefits from being from the Democratic Party, they want to make it look like the Democratic Party is the welfare party. It's not the classy party. It's not the party of stature. It's not the white party. It is a party of all those others, right? And even the white people in the Democratic Party, that is how they want white people to see it. It's not true at all. It's not true at all. But that is what they want to promote. So they promote that idea in the minds of people. You want to be classy. You want to be different. Be a Republican. We are the money ones. Of course, the Republicans doesn't know how to run government. The Republicans don't know how to spend money. They don't know how to do anything because they don't work on the ideology. I'm not talking about Republican people. I'm talking about the leaders in the Republican Party. I love the Republican people. I don't like the Republican politicians and leaders because they're hypocrites more so than Democrats are. Notice what I said, more so than Democrats are. So, your son just need to be informed in an interesting way how to create these two lines, pluses and minuses of each candidate, and that arguably will always give the appropriate result as far as who you should be for. It's that simple. You just itemize what are your needs, what are the things you need to succeed in the next 4 years. What are the things that Donald Trump has offered, is offering over the next 4 years, and what are the things the Democrats are offering over the next 4 years. You present that in a chart to your son. And then you say, okay, son, let's go over this very nicely and simply. And after that, I'm pretty sure sense will reign. And that's what I talk about some of that in my book. I have this little section where I say how to make the conservative argument for our progressive ideas. And you'd be surprised, it's not at all difficult to make the conservative arguments to that. Edward Lee Sang, I'd like you to explain that. I don't think anybody who knows me would ever really say that, other than those who need to be against me for a particular reason. Please go ahead and put that out. I'll be more than happy. Or I'll tell you what, Mr. Edward Lee Sang, you can feel free to call in. Let me put the number on the screen. I'd love to speak to you in real time. The number is 346-248-7799. Again, that is 346-248-7799. The code is 254-600-9091. It's right there on the screen. I'll be more than happy to discuss that with you in real time. As far as you said, I think you said you are a racist. I just want you to kind of call me up and explain to me what are the things that I have said that gives you that belief that that's who I am. I would love to hear that and love to discuss that with you. Anyhow, folks, before we're at 31 minutes, so it's time for me to tell you, please, folks, go ahead and consider getting, my book. My book is called It's Worth It: How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors. It's worth it. How to talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors. Look, the book has been getting very, very good reviews. It's been number 1 in conflict management, and number 2, the Kindle version has been number 1 for quite a while. Actually, the paperback was number 2 for quite a while as well on Amazon. And they update those things hourly. And we've spent more than several days in the 1 and 2 positions. So I just want to thank you, all you guys out there who are buying the book. We really need to sell a ton of the books. I'm coming to you in the waiting room right now, my friends. Let me just put this link on the screen. I'm going to put that link on the screen right this minute. And then I'm going to take my caller and have a civil conversation with my caller who thinks that I'm a racist. All right, caller, you are on, sir. What's your name, sir? Are you what was the name? Are you Mr. Lee? Mr. Sang?
Alberto, this is Hope. Were you trying to talk with someone else?
Oh, no. Well, somebody called me a racist on the feed, and I asked him to call me. I would love for him to discuss what he thought made me a racist so that we could kind of come to some kind of conclusion. But Hope, how are you doing, my friend?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt the conversation.
No,
I was
you
just
didn't. You
scrolling
didn't.
through my Facebook, and you're putting out a lot of great content, and I just want you to keep going. I think that we're turning a corner, and you're starting to hear from the nation that we're really, really sick and tired of race being a political issue. It's very, very costly, and it doesn't make sense. And, you know, there's enough ingrained systemic racism that is just a total drag and, you know, costs us all a lot of money anyway. And to have a commander in chief who just continues to bark it out and enforce it and make it 10 times worse is just really a drag. And we're not going to do it anymore. We're just not going to do it anymore.
Hope, I love you to death. Let me tell you something. What you're saying is so important for others to hear as well, because that is true. You know, the racial thing is a key word to, you know, I've written some articles where I said it wants to work on the carnality of people because of our history and how people react to that. But as people like you come out and say we are no longer going to allow this to happen, people's minds change because they relate to you. And my God, if Hope can see the light, maybe it's time for me to see the light. When I was wrong, when I was a homophobe, when I was a terrible homophobe, and when I made my change, a lot of the people who were just like me, who suffered that same disease because of our culture, because of our origin, they themselves changed as well. You are an agent of change, Hope.
Well, you rock, and I'm getting your book, and I think it's going to be worth it. So you take care.
Thank you so kindly for calling, Hope. You have a wonderful day.
Bye, Alberto.
Bye-bye. Thank you, folks. And again, please, folks, go ahead and get the book. I'm going to put that in the stream again. It has those funny letters, so I can't repeat those letters. Just go to the stream. For those of you who are online and want to go to get the book, just go to politicsdoneright.com/store, politicsdoneright.com/store. If you want to get a hard copy and not give the profits to the third party, meaning it comes directly to Politics Done Right, or you can just go ahead and get it at Amazon. You can just search for my name, Egberto Willies, at Amazon, and the name of the book is It's Worth It: How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors. By the way, folks, please consider becoming one of our patrons to stay alive and be able to do what we are doing. We need your support. It's hard work, but we love it. You know why we love it? Because we're making a difference. You are making a difference. All of you out there who are listening, who are sharing, who are actually talking to their neighbors, you're making a difference, because we are a lot more powerful than Donald Trump paying the Russians or Donald Trump paying a media company. And by the way, whether it's the Russians or a media company, it doesn't matter. That's why I never got on the Russian kick, right? Because I think people gave the Russians too much power. Oh, they're fooling people on Facebook. They're doing this stuff on YouTube. They're doing, you know what? If the Russians weren't doing it, Donald Trump has the money to pay people, media companies, to do it. So whether it's the Russians, it's the Chinese, it's the not Yugoslavia, that don't exist anymore. Whether it is from Belgrade, Croatia or Bosnia Herzegovina or wherever it's coming from, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. Okay, let's see. So you're saying this about Egbert, but what are you? Thank you, brother. Okay, let's go out here. And by the way, so again, if you want to support the show, folks, please go to politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. And Patreon is politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Patreon is Patreon. Patreon. Politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. You can support us at PayPal by going to politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. Again, that is, let me put it out there again, politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. If you want to support us on Facebook, it is politicsdoneright.com/Facebook. If you're on YouTube, you can give us a super chat by just hitting that $sign and saying, yeah, I want to help out Politics Done Right so they can continue doing their work. And here's the link for the politicsdoneright.com/store. Okay, let's get back away from that. I have to do that because we have to stay in business. But anyhow, let's go ahead and continue. Okay, Daniel says, Egberto once said about 6 years ago that he thought it was shameful that blacks married outside of their race. Wow, what a big lie. That could never have come out of my mouth, especially since relatives of mine are married to white people, Latinos, everybody else. Well, I'm a black Latino, but my family is such an integrated bunch. If you take a look at my blogs from years ago, you will see my cousin, my black Latina cousin with her very white Irish husband, and I wrote a blog about them. So I mean, why would you say that, Mr. Ledo? Maybe the Russians took some of my videos and did what they love to do and doctor it. That could have never, ever come out of my mouth. So the lie won't stand. Love you, brother. Still love you. Even as you're attempting to lie on me, still love you, brother. Because you know what? That is the last effort somebody does when they need to start to do things. They lie. It is exactly what Trump is doing right now. Lying, and that's what they have to do. Anyway, let's move on, brothers and sisters. Let's move on, brothers and sisters. I showed you the video on the poll. I showed you the two ones about Biden. Here's the deal now. Let's go ahead and look at MSNBC came out with a good takedown on democratic cities of crime. They love to do that. You know, they do what Ledo does, right? You just say things and hope that people believe it. And if people believe it, then somehow they'll cost you, right? That's what they do. And this is what Trump has been doing about, the cities, right? So check this out. Let me show you. Para ver. Where is that on cities, American cities? I think this is the one. Donald Trump has made it the narrative that that crime is going crazy, murders are going crazy in democratic cities. There's a reason he does that, right? Because since he wants to use the law and order tenet for his campaign, and since there is a lot of what they perceive protesting to be as law and order violations, they need to connect that the reason why it is his America that all this violence is happening is they are going to tie local control under democratic governments not accepting Republican federal control to keep the these states these cities in some form of disorder, some form of lawlessness. So they have to try to make those connections so that they can sell it. Now, first of all, their viewers require simplicity. They have taught them to require simplicity. So I don't know how he's going to try to pull that off. But the fact is, even that tenet is wrong, as we're going to see right now from Tom Costello. Listen to this.
As is the case in virtually every country in the world, violence usually happens in cities. That's just the way it's been for 200 plus years. You don't have as much in rural areas. And in America, Democrats lead most big cities. That's just the way it's been for quite a while now. But it is not accurate. It is not accurate to say that violence is only happening in cities run by Democrats.
Amid national protests over racial inequality and policing, President Trump has often repeated the same claim.
The top 10 most dangerous cities in America are run by Democrats. The 20 most dangerous are Democrat run. Worse than Honduras, Worse than Afghanistan.
The reality check. Homicide rates are up in many cities run by both Democrats and Republicans. Up 13% in Republican-led Miami. Up 34% in Democrat-led New York. Up 29% in Republican-run Tulsa through June. Up 31% in Democrat-led Phoenix through July. In Republican-led Fort Worth, police report a 50% increase in homicides just this year.
We've got challenges just as well as other large and small metropolitan areas. We're doing the best that we can with the resources that we have.
In Democrat-led Oakland, a 26% increase.
Cities across this country, major city chiefs, are saying the exact same thing. The amount of guns, the amount of gun crime, the significant increases.
Crime experts say the pandemic and economic fallout are big factors in driving the murder rate higher. Roughly 70% of America's 100 biggest cities are led by Democrats, the rest by Republicans or others. Former CIA officer Jeff Asher now analyzes crime data.
The president claims this is pretty much only a problem in Democratic cities. Is that accurate?
Well, the data that we have right now says that that's not accurate. We're seeing about a 25% increase in all cities, the 14 cities that are run by Republicans. Very similar change on average of the cities that are run by Democrats.
Very few murders have been connected to the protests over racial inequality. Police report outside agitators from both the left and the right have often turned those protests violent. Over the weekend, the president tweeted that D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, clean up D.C. or the federal government will do it for you.
When a president attacks American cities, he's attacking America. And the job of the president is to unite us, not to divide us.
So the president's rhetoric has suggested that, in fact, this is only a problem in cities run by Democrats. But the reality is that that simply is not true. And in some cities, we're actually seeing a decrease in homicides, including Democrat-led Baltimore and Republican-led Oklahoma City.
Now, now, Joel Andre Bissonnette. Oh, I imagine you are from the French part of Canada, Ontario, Quebec, maybe? Anyhow, let me tell you, U.S. politics is so dire. And you know what? Right now, El Señor, you are absolutely... oh, really? I am so sorry. I'm going to see what I can do about that. I keep trying to contact these guys. And when I got the new software today, I really thought, wow, we got new software, so this is going to be just fine. Anyhow, so sorry about the sync problems, guys. Very sorry about the sync problems. Anyhow, I think I'm going to try a few things after the show to see if I can figure out something. Anyhow, our politics is dire in America right now, in the United States of America. I don't like to say our politics is dire of America because even when we talk about America, we're talking about, wait a minute, America is North America, South America, Central America, everything. So let's have a little bit more sensitivity here about the United States of America. Okay. The conditions here are dire. They are, in fact, dire. But what happens is when you get, people tend to follow leaders. People really tend to follow leaders. And if you get somebody that can best be considered a moron without morals as a leader, then a lot of people, especially those of the same party, have a tendency to adapt the same values. It's not their values, it's just them adapting, co-opting the values of their leaders. And that's why leadership is so important. So Donald Trump, as a moralless, moron, non-intelligent, and unintellectual person, he tends to make that vogue. And in making that vogue, there's no longer any shame in being less informed because, hell, he is president and he doesn't mind conspiracy theories. Hell, he's president and he can talk about all these quote-unquote Antifa-like people flying on a plane from another conspiracy theory that we know its origins. I mean, so that is what leaves the people who follow this guy with such a level. And by the way, this was all promoted through the Powell Manifesto. Eventually, we had to get here. Eventually, we had to make people much less intelligent because an intelligent person An intelligent people cannot stand for a capitalism that says, I will make you nothing but an antiseptic slave. In other words, I'll make a deal with you to pay you $50,000 a year while your value to the company is $150,000. And that all the people that make that added value goes to a few, the top. Right? Because I want you guys to understand that, and I repeat that for those of you who've heard this a million times. I'm sorry, but I repeat it for our newcomers, which we get newcomers over and over again. In a capitalist system, you make a deal to get underpaid. That's a deal you've always made. You've always made the deal to get underpaid, no matter what. People will say, but wait a minute, if the company loses money, you're not at risk. The company is. No, if the company loses money, you get fired. If the company makes much more money than you are than they're paying you, they say, sorry, we made a deal. We're a contract society. In a contract society, what happens? We make a lot of money, we keep it. We lose money, you lose your job. It's antiseptic slavery, and then we tie health insurance and all of this stuff to corporations. So what it says, and if you leave the company, good luck in finding insurance. And if you decide to compete with us by trying to form your own company, you'll have it as hard as Egberto had it when he had Willie's Computer Software Company and had to pay over $20,000 a year in insurance for he and his family, or he and his wife. When he had to pay a different policy for Ash's daughter at the time until the Affordable Care Act made it the 26th. Look, folks, it's so important for us to understand that everything that you see occurring right now, both on the Democratic side and on the Republican side, is really to save a failing system, right? We need to have Biden in. We must have Biden in. Biden is going to slow down the catastrophic failure of our economic system. That is what Biden is going to do. Slow down. And when he comes in, it is up to us then, the progressives, to then clean it up. Okay? Clean it up. So what we need to do is get somebody to slow down the destruction, and then we can start building better. And that is kind of off of what he's saying, building better. Okay, now we had a big win. Talking about progressives, progressives had a big win in Massachusetts, but more than a big win was the statement made by El Señor Markey. I want you to listen to Markey, and then we'll take it on the other side.
A progressive movement of young people demanding radical change, demanding justice, a movement giving voice and power to young people when for far too long they were ignored. It's a movement fueled by young people who are not afraid to raise their voices or make enemies. Tonight's victory is a tribute to those young people and to their vision. They will save us if we trust them. We must look to them, listen to them. We must follow these young people. They want justice in our country and in our world. Growing up, my father told me, don't beg for your rights. You organize and you take them. So to the young people fighting in this movement for change, here is my charge to you. March in the streets, protest, run for school committee or city council or the state legislature and win. But don't just challenge the status quo, dismantle it, take things over. When they say slow down, go faster. When they say not now, start that day. When they say not that way, redraw the map. When they say you're too young, show up with your friends. Every reason the critics and cynics offer to give up or give in is proof positive that you should push forward and hard. The time to be timid is past. The age of incrementalism is over. Now is our moment to think big, to be big. This is what this election is all about. This is what this moment demands. There are many issues in this race, and we campaigned on all of them. Civil rights, health care, the economy, the coronavirus pandemic, creating a pathway to citizenship, we took unapologetically progressive stances on all of them. We never blinked. We didn't bend. We made it clear that we'd rather lose fighting as hard as we could for what we believe in than in finding the middle ground. The progressive movement knows how to fight. We will not surrender. We know our work is not done. Tomorrow and for the next 8 weeks, we have to hit the streets. And priority number one is to remove Donald Trump from the White House. He is the most corrupt, most racist, most incompetent president in American history. We must banish his agenda of division and destruction to the history books. And we must elect Joe Biden as our next president and Kamala Harris as our next vice president. We must wrest the gavel leadership from Mitch McConnell and the Republicans by electing Democrats in battleground states so that we end the era of GOP obstruction. This election is an undeniable mandate for action, and it is our young people who will lead the way. Today is just the beginning for our movement. I am energized by everyone standing up to make your voices heard. I am proud of this campaign and what we stand for, and I'm hopeful about the future of our country. My faith is renewed each day.
Okay, here's the deal. Mike Cisak says, this is the Democratic Party pushing the young radicals into riot, burning down cities and towns. Now the Democrats are freaking out. Most people don't like riots and destruction and now associate such with the Democratic Party. Oh no, I guess most people would not either like the founding fathers who, when the British was taking them taxation without representation, even when the British were doing all these things to them that took away their rights, they decided to protest as well. But the only difference is they protest in a much more drastic fashion. They went on a ship and threw away all the tea. They started to destroy. Come on, Mike Cisak. Be for real. Protest is very American. Nobody talks about burning down anything other than you guys. When you guys go out there and say, oh, you need to do these things. We need to do these things. Mike Cisak, you are dreaming. Now, El Señor Rudnin had a very important statement when he said that they concentrated on the Kennedy Markey battle. And the reason they did that is that what happened is Nancy Pelosi went against policy and she went ahead and endorsed Kennedy. She went ahead and endorsed, she's been telling AOC and all these other people not to endorse the person who is not to go against the incumbent. And here when it came to her friend, the Kennedys, she decided to do what she wanted. But of course, AOC said, yes, and we are with Murky, a known progressive with progressive values and progressive stances. And you know what? He beat, even with the recommendation of the Speaker of the House, he still won. Now, when it comes to Merce and what's the other guy's name? Whatever the other guy's name is, that race, he would have won it. The reason he lost it is that there was some shenanigans with some school folks, if I remember correctly, that attempted to kind of, he got hit pretty hard in the beginning, and that really cost him. So anyhow, and Cisak, the burning down of mom and pop business had nothing to do with the protesters. To put it bluntly, I wouldn't put it against the right wingers to instill violence in doing that stuff. Norman says Republicans hate the fact that we know the difference between rioting and protesting. Absolutely so. All right, let me go ahead and welcome all my folks because we got to leave out of here pretty soon. And I'm welcoming everyone. Michael Rudnin, welcome aboard. AVQ, welcome aboard. Paul Fleming. Bridge MCP, welcome aboard. Sir Wesley 08, welcome aboard. Bruce Pollard, welcome aboard. Dimitri OG, ¿cómo estás, mi hermano mío? Daniel Ledo, welcome aboard. Michael Rudden, I talked to you already. Let's see who else. Paul Fleming, welcome aboard. Tell your son Paul that to go make that list, Paul. Make that list for your son, and your son will be right back on the appropriate team. I guarantee you. Hell, if you need to go ahead and tell him, get in touch with your buddy at Politics Done Right, I would be more than happy to have a mano-a-mano talk very civilly and nicely with your son. Tell him he can call me anytime. I'd love to talk to your son. Let's see. Rose Williams. How you doing, Rose? Welcome aboard. Let's see who else is here that I missed. Para ver. If I miss you, just put Kathy Pascal. Thank you so kindly. What inspired me in schools were the teachers. My history teacher told us, if you finished your work early, I will tell you how my family and I escaped from Nazi in Germany. That what are children learning from computer? So much is lost with the generation. Yes. But you know what, Kathy? Let me tell you, things are going to get better. I'm the forever optimist. Dimitri, we have a broken system and will never get any substantive changes if we keep voting for the lesser of two evils. I agree with you. But what we do is buy time, and what we need to do, however, Dimitri, is win. And we have to get together and win. We can't, we have to stop. Progressives have a tendency to fight among each self with different gradations of purity. We have to leave that and come to a clause, a framework that we can all live within, and then win the war. That's what we have to do. Duke Rhodes, welcome aboard. Let's see. I'm in for war against Antifa. I don't know what Antifa is. I'll tell you. Antifa is just a hashtag, and people follow the tenets of anti-fascism in whatever form they deem they want to do it. Antifa isn't an organized. That's why it's funny when I hear the FBI is going against Antifa. Unfortunately, they're not going to find anything. What they're going to find is loosely associated people say, hey, let's meet up here. Tag Antifa. We do that, some kind of a thing here, some kind of a thing. That's what it is, nothing else. It's not organized like the right-wing groups. We can target the right-wing groups. We can't target otherwise. Okay, let's see. Paul Fleming, welcome aboard. Mike Cisak, welcome aboard. Let's see, who else did I miss? Okay, Norman Reynolds, welcome aboard. Josie Andre Bissonet, welcome aboard. Who else is here that I missed? Joel, I think I got you. Edward Lee Sang, welcome aboard. Rose, I got to you. Anybody else? I think I got everybody. Paulette Stansel, welcome aboard. You're giving trolls too much time. It's not. Let me tell you one thing. It's not the trolls that I'm giving the time to, Paulette. It's the audience. I want the audience to see my interaction with trolls, because ultimately, I think that helped the would-be trolls or otherwise to start thinking, God, that troll really looked pretty damn silly. Is that how I want to see myself? And I've heard that from other people. You know, remember, most of the people are not talking. They're just listening. And they're creating their whole environment, their mental environment, based on the interactions and the things that they see. That's why I'm respectful with everybody. That's why I give everybody their due. Okay, let's see who else is here. Paul Fleming, I got you. Para ver. Jacoby G, welcome aboard. I just heard that they want to stop paying payroll tax for the rest of the year. Yeah, sure, and that will reduce Social Security by over several years. Egberto wants, I'm not even going to repeat what you had to say, because you know that's a lie. You just lost a lot of respect, though, from a lot of people who actually know me. So, man, Ledo, that, as she said, throw whatever you can and see what sticks. Unfortunately, nothing can stick. Don Barry, welcome aboard. Let's see. Barry says, visit Antifa.com and see what happens. Democrats have no... Don't fall for it, sir. I mean, you're being used. Okay, we did a whole lot of messages today again. Kathy Pascal, welcome aboard as well. Anybody else that I'm missing? I'd like to make sure I get everybody before I say goodbye, I think I got everybody. Anyway, folks, thank you so kindly for having been here. I'm still scrolling as we go. God, we had a lot of people in today. Thank you very much, folks. Thank you very much. Yes, I know. Hey, Joel, I may have to move to Canada if Trump gets reelected, because you know he's going to send his goons against all of us that's talking against him. Anyhow, my name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how I end this, baby. Folks, go get my book. I'm going to put that link in one more time. Please get my book. We need it to keep us going, to keep us growing, and to inform and show how to inform. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out! I'm Egberto Willies, host of Politics Done Right, an independent news program. I post several news videos of interest every day. I ask you so kindly to subscribe to my channel, And please leave me some comments. Thank you very much.